Good morning. This is Father Stephen Kelly from St. John's Church in Detroit. We're continuing our series of daily morning meditations where we generally look at one or another of the lessons that are assigned for morning or evening prayer, what is known as the daily office lectionary. And of course, Lent is now underway, and I hope that you have had the opportunity, if you were not able to actually join us here at St. John's for an Ash Wednesday service, that you had some time yesterday to think about the fact that we are mortal and that in fact we are made of the dust, and unto the dust we shall return. So we jump right in on our lessons that are assigned for this week, and we jump around a little bit during this week as we get ready to then start in earnest in Lent on Sunday. But I thought I'd take a look at St. John's Gospel that's assigned for today, chapter 8, beginning at the first verse, because ultimately, even though Lent is primarily concentrating on sin, we concentrate on sin because of forgiveness, right? It's because of the reality that we need to acknowledge our sin and understand our sin so that we can offer it to God and really accept the forgiveness that He is willing to give to us, that we may amend our lives and become new people. So we're at chapter 8, beginning at verse 1. And every man went to his own house, and Jesus went into the Mount of Olives. And early in the morning the cart came to the temple, and all the people came unto him. And he sat down and taught them. And the scribes and the Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery. And when they set her in the midst, they say unto him, Master, this woman has taken in adultery in the very act. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou? This they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground, as though he heard them not. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. And they which heard it, being convinced of their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. And when Jesus had lifted up himself, he saw none but the woman, and said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee? She said, No man, Lord. And Jesus said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. So here we are, the beginning of Lent, and the important words that we hear from Jesus, of course, is neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. And so what, of course, Jesus is talking about is the reality that once we recognize our sinfulness, right, certainly there is a consequence in the law for being caught in adultery. And of course, that consequence is to be stoned. And so we certainly don't want to get ourselves caught up in figuring out everybody else's sin, right? It's an expression that we get upset with other people because they're sinning in different ways than we're sinning. And so certainly, as it says, their motivation wasn't for the righteousness of the law. Their motivation was they were going to try to trip up Jesus in order to accuse him of denying the law. And so rather than Jesus coming right out and turning aside the teaching of the law on this subject, what he says instead was, let's look in the mirror, folks, right? Whichever of you is without sin, go right ahead and cast the first stone. And of course, it's always, of course, the eldest, the wise. Now that I'm getting older, I'm almost 55. Now that I'm getting older, you realize the older you get, the smarter you get. When I was 35, I thought I knew everything. Now at 55, I understand how much I didn't know then, and I'm starting to see how much I don't know yet. So anyway, from the oldest, they're the one who are very quick to recognize that they too have sin. And then, of course, eventually, as the younger ones saw the older ones walking away, they realized that they too could not accuse her. And so it is that in the end, they could not in good conscience do it because they certainly have sin as well. And so what? You have sin, right? So do I. We all have sin. But the good news is that Jesus did not come into the world to condemn the world, but that the world might be saved through him. This woman tasted that firsthand, right? Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. So folks, this Lenten season, as we get started and we start looking at the impact of sin in our lives and how it's preventing us from growing in grace and how it's keeping us from becoming the people that God wants us to be, the key for this now, of course, is that we want to go and sin no more. We need to recognize the sin in our lives, and then we need to ask God for the grace to stop. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful Thursday morning. May God bless you.